Imagine this. It's 1925. You're standing in the middle of a booming steel town, 100,000 people strong. Factories roaring like thunder day and night. Kids laughing in packed schools. Families filling churches that seat thousands. Fast forward just 50 years, and it's silent. Total, dead silence. Not a soul left. No fire, no flood, no war. Just people, picking up and walking away, leaving behind the skeletons of everything they built. These aren't your Wild West ghost towns with shootouts and gold rushes. These are the forgotten hearts of America, the Midwest's empty husks, swallowed whole by something far quieter and far more terrifying. Today, we're cracking open 4 shocking stories from Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Missouri. Stick around till the end, because the twist might make you look twice at your own backyard. Hit that like button if you've ever driven past a boarded-up Main Street and wondered, what if that happened here? Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the channel, where we dig up the hidden chapters of American history that nobody talks about anymore. I'm your guide through the dust and the echoes, and today we're taking a road trip across the Midwest, the breadbasket that slowly turned to bone. From the collapse of steel empires to toxic secrets buried under what used to be suburbs, these ghost towns aren't just ruins, they're warnings. We'll walk through Gary, Indiana's Cathedral of Despair, Cairo, Illinois' Riverfront Reckoning, Fayette, Michigan's Iron Empire in ashes, and Times Beach, Missouri's Poison Paradise lost. Why tell these stories in 2025? Because factories are still closing, jobs are still vanishing, this time to AI and automation. History's whispering, it could happen again. Grab your coffee, we've got 15 minutes of chills, hard facts, and a few what-ifs. If you're new here, hit subscribe. We go deep on forgotten America every week. First stop, the city that U.S. Steel built and then broke.
Picture Gary, Indiana in 1906. A blank canvas on the shores of Lake Michigan. Elbert Gary and U.S. Steel draw up plans for what they call the City of the Century. Wide boulevards, factories that light up the night sky like permanent sunrise. Immigrants pour in from all over Europe, chasing opportunity. They build a utopia out of smoke and steel. And at the very heart of it stands the City Methodist Church, a Gothic masterpiece started in 1925. Over $1 million to build, that's $13 million today. Half the money came straight from U.S. Steel. This wasn't just a church, it was a symbol. It seated 1,200. Congregations swelled to 3,000. Sundays rang with hymns and hope. But then came the 1970s steel crisis. Global competition, Japan, Europe, flooding the market with cheaper metal. American mills too old, too union, bleeding cash. Layoffs hit Gary like a sledgehammer, thousands gone overnight. Population crashed from 178,000 in 1960 to under 70,000 today. The church's flock shrank to nothing. No fire, no dramatic collapse, just quiet exodus. Families loaded U-Hauls and headed for the suburbs. Pews left to pigeons, altars to dust. Vandals stripped the pipe organ for copper. Weather cracked the walls like old bones. What really happened? Pure, brutal economics. Steel was Gary's blood. When the flow stopped, the heart stopped. Crazy thing, they say the bell still tolls sometimes. Just the wind, but it makes you shiver, doesn't it? If you've ever explored those ruins, drop a comment below. Up next, a river town that drowned in more than just water. Down at the very tip of Illinois, where the Ohio and Mississippi rivers meet, sits Cairo, pronounced Cairo. Founded in 1818, it was the perfect crossroads. Steamboats unloading cotton and passengers, railroads heading south to New Orleans. By the 1920s, 15,000 people called it home. Grand hotels, rowdy saloons, a beacon for freed slaves after the Civil War. But the bust came in waves. First, nature. Devastating floods in the 1800s and early 1900s turned streets into swamps, shook people's faith in the levees. Then came the real killer, the 1960s. Economic decline and a racial powder keg. Jobs disappeared as manufacturing slowed. Tensions rose. The 1967 killing of a young black soldier at a traffic stop sparked riots. White flight followed fast. Businesses shuttered. Families crossed the river to Kentucky. By 1970, half the town was gone. Stores boarded forever. The once proud courthouse now just a hollow shell. Federal money went to bigger ports. Interstates bypassed Cairo completely. Today, only about 1,800 people remain. Drive those cracked streets now and it's like stepping back in time. Faded diner signs, a lonely lighthouse staring at empty water. One man stayed behind and turned his house into a museum of memories. Inspiring or heartbreaking? Illinois folks, if you've got a Cairo story, share it below. Hold on, Michigan's Iron Empire is next.
Head north to Michigan's Upper Peninsula, where Lake Michigan crashes against wild shore. In 1867, Fayette rises from nothing, a charcoal pig iron town. 2 massive smelters burning day and night, eating 40,000 bushels of hardwood charcoal every single day. Smoke so thick it painted sunsets blood red. Immigrants from Canada and Scandinavia build a full community, hotel, school for 100 kids, even a brass band. Ships carry the iron south to build Chicago's skyscrapers. In the 1880s, Fayette rules the peninsula's iron trade. Then the 1890s hit. Minnesota's Mesabi Range opens, richer ore, cheaper to mine, closer to railroads. Charcoal becomes obsolete next to coal. Smelters go cold in 1891. Jobs vanish. The town limps along as a fishing resort for a while, but the Depression finishes it off. By mid-century, empty. Today, it's a beautiful state historic park. You can still walk the stone kilns, see dock pilings sticking out of the lake like broken teeth. Divers even find iron ingots on the bottom, 150 years later. Boom to bust in one generation. Michigan friends, ever hiked Fayette? Tell us below. Last stop, Missouri's suburban nightmare. Just outside St. Louis in the 1970s, Times Beach looks like the perfect American dream. 2,000 residents along the Merrimack River, kids riding horses on dirt roads, potlucks under the oaks. But to keep the dust down on those cheap gravel roads, they sprayed waste oil starting in 1971. That oil, contaminated with dioxin, one of the most toxic chemicals known to man, hundreds of times more deadly than DDT. Levels in the soil hit hundreds of parts per billion, even in playgrounds. Animals born deformed, residents falling sick with strange cancers. By 1982, EPA tests confirm the worst. Full evacuation ordered in 1983. Federal buyout, $35 million. Every home bulldozed. Today, it's Route 66 State Park. Picnickers barbecue where poison once ruled the ground. One family moved back after cleanup, then fled again when a 2019 flood stirred up old sludge. Economic disaster wrapped in a toxic bow. A scar on the American dream that never fully healed. So what really happened to these Midwest ghost towns? Not curses, not disasters from the sky, just the slow, grinding shift of markets, industries dying, and ordinary people caught in the gears. Gary's steel sorrow, Cairo's divided drift, Fayette's fiery fall, Time's beach's toxic twist. They're mirrors for right now. As we chase electric cars and remote work, who's next in line? These stories aren't dead, they're lessons. Explored any ghost towns yourself? Drop your stories in the comments. I read every single one. If this gave you chills, hit like, share it with a history lover, and subscribe. We've got Appalachian ghost stories next week. Thanks for walking through the ruins with me. See you in the next one.